All right, so let's dive right into it. Some fascinating developments. After Trump's recent election victory,
Yeah.
it seems like the world's kind of hit the reset button on a lot of their strategies.
It really is remarkable
Everyone's kind of reassessing.
how quickly everything's changing.
Yeah.
And we're not just talking about, tweaking a few policies here and there.
Yeah.
We're seeing some pretty fundamental shifts.
In alliances and strategies.
Yeah.
It's really a seismic shift.
Yeah, it speaks volumes about how much this election has kind of shaken things up.
For sure.
The established world order.
Totally. And we're seeing some pretty unexpected reactions too, right?
Absolutely.
Like peace calls from Hamas
Yeah.
and ceasefires from Iranian-backed Houthis.
I mean,
These groups have been opposed to the U.S.
for years.
for years. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it suggests that these groups
See an opening?
see a potential opening with a Trump presidency.
Yeah.
An opportunity to kind of renegotiate their positions.
Yeah.
Maybe secure some more favorable terms.
Interesting.
It's a strategic calculation for sure.
Yeah.
Weighing the risks and the opportunities, this new landscape.
Then you've got Putin
Yeah.
announcing he's ready to restore relations with the U.S.
Interesting.
But at the same time,
Yeah.
he emphasizes that Russia is not abandoning the U.S. dollar.
Right. A little bit of a mixed message there.
It does seem like it.
It is, and that's what's so fascinating about it.
Yeah.
On the one hand, he's extending an olive branch,
Right.
suggesting he wants to re-engage.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the other hand, he's making it very clear
They're not giving up their leverage.
Russia's not going to relinquish its economic leverage
Right.
by ditching the dollar.
Right.
It's a very carefully calibrated approach.
Yeah.
It signals a desire for dialogue,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But not at the expense of Russian interests.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And even the Chinese media are buzzing about Trump's crypto plans
Oh, yeah. Particularly that proposal.
for a strategic Bitcoin reserve.
That's a big one.
Yeah. What could that mean?
Well, this is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Such a move could really propel the U.S.
To the forefront.
to the forefront of the global crypto scene. You imagine the impact if the U.S.,
With all its economic might.
with all its economic clout, were to embrace Bitcoin in such a big way.
Yeah.
I mean, it could legitimize cryptocurrencies,
On a global scale.
globally accelerate adoption, and potentially,
Reshape the entire financial landscape.
it's a big deal.
Wow. So we've got all these international players making moves.
Absolutely.
But what about domestically?
Yeah.
Trump has this plan, right, to dismantle the deep state.
Right?
He's talking about removing unelected bureaucrats, overhauling the intelligence community,
Mm-hmm.
even establishing a Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
Wow.
This sounds like a major shakeup of the U.S. government.
It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, the term deep state refers to this
This network
supposed network of individuals within the government bureaucracy
who operate independently.
who operate outside the,
Elected officials.
of the elected officials, often pursuing their own agendas
Right. So Trump is framing this as
as a battle.
a battle against entrenched power.
Right. Trying to return control to the people.
Okay. And his plan includes
Yeah.
reinstating an executive order to remove bureaucrats,
Mm.
reforming the FISA courts,
Which are used to authorize surveillance.
cracking down on leaks.
Right.
He also wants to push for term limits for Congress
Wow.
and relocate federal agencies outside of D.C.
I mean, it's a pretty extensive list.
It is.
Yeah.
The implications are huge.
They are far-reaching.
On the one hand, you
Yeah.
could argue these reforms are needed.
Right. Address concerns about government overreach,
Accountability.
lack of accountability, exactly.
But on the other hand,
Right.
critics worry that these moves could weaken institutions and undermine democratic norms.
That's right. It's a delicate balance.
It is. And can he actually do all of this?
Well,
What are the obstacles?
that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, he's definitely going to face pushback.
From people who benefit from the status quo.
Exactly. And navigating the, legal and political complexities
Right.
of these kinds of sweeping changes,
Yeah.
not going to be easy.
It'll be fascinating to watch.
Oh, for sure.
So Taiwan's response has been interesting.
Yeah, their response has been really noteworthy.
They're willing to help their companies move production out of China
Wow.
in anticipation of potential tariffs
That's a big deal.
under a Trump administration.
It is both economically and geopolitically.
Yeah.
It signals a real willingness to, realign economic ties in response to U.S. policy
Interesting.
and, potentially reduce their dependence on China.
Right.
It also highlights this delicate balancing act
Yeah.
Taiwan has to play
Between the U.S. and China.
in the midst of all these U.S.-China tensions.
Exactly. And then you have Barbara Heineback,
Yeah.
former White House staffer,
Right.
publicly criticizing Kamala Harris.
Yeah. Calling her a sore loser.
And classless.
It's a pretty harsh assessment.
It is. What do you make of that?
Well, it's an interesting observation.
Yeah.
You know, it speaks to these post-election narratives that are forming.
Right.
Whether or not this perception of Harris is widespread
Yeah.
remains to be seen,
Yeah.
but it does highlight the challenges
She faces.
in maintaining her political standing after a loss like this.
For sure. Meanwhile, the White House,
Right.
emphasizing a peaceful transition of power,
Of course.
highlighting what they call the strongest economy in the world.
Right, that Biden is supposedly leaving behind.
Right.
I think these statements need to be viewed
In context.
within the context of this changing political landscape.
Right.
I mean, it's not uncommon for outgoing administrations
To highlight their achievements.
Exactly.
But it's always important.
Look beyond the rhetoric.
And assess the actual state of affairs.
Absolutely.
Okay, then there's this anecdote
Yeah.
about Biden appearing super sharp after the election,
Interesting.
even joking that maybe he and Jill voted for Trump.
It's a funny little detail.
Yeah.
These kinds of observations,
Yeah.
while anecdotal, they can offer these glimpses into the personality
Into the dynamics.
and the dynamics at play.
Right.
You know, it makes you wonder how Biden views his own legacy
Yeah.
and how he's going to navigate this next phase of his career.
It makes you wonder how history will ultimately judge his presidency.
That's a big question.
Was he a transitional figure?
Or did he achieve lasting progress?
Amidst all these challenges.
It's a complex question.
Yeah,
Historians will be debating that one for years to come.
I'm sure they will.
I mean, Biden's legacy is going to be shaped by so many factors.
Right.
His handling of the pandemic, the economy.
His efforts to address those social and political divisions.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
It is a lot to unpack.
Really is a fascinating moment in history, isn't it?
It is.
Everyone's trying to figure out what this new chapter holds.
Absolutely.
And speaking of fascinating,
Yeah.
did you catch that clip from Tucker Carlson's new series?
Oh, yeah. Art of the Surge?
Art of the Surge.
Yeah.
The footage of Trump reacting to Kamala Harris's speech
At the DNC?
at the DNC and then writing his Truth Social posts
In real time.
in real
It
time.
was pretty revealing.
It was like a masterclass
Yeah.
in using social media
To control the
to
narrative.
connect with an audience.
It really shows how he understands that power.
Yeah.
Bypassing traditional media
Going direct.
and speaking directly to supporters.
Love it or hate it.
It works.
It's effective.
Yeah.
Now the Mexican president seems to be taking a more cautious approach.
Interesting.
He's refusing to acknowledge Trump's victory
Mhm.
until all the votes are counted.
I see.
What do you think about that?
That hesitancy is definitely worth noting.
Yeah.
It raises questions about the future of that U.S.-Mexico relationship
Right.
under a Trump presidency.
Yeah.
Yeah, is this just protocol
Right. Or is there a deeper unease
with the potential changes?
with potential policy shifts? Yeah, it's hard to say for sure.
It does feel like the global chessboard has been totally upended.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like everyone's reevaluating their alliances,
Their strategy.
trying to anticipate the next move.
Yeah, and I think that's not just about, reacting to Trump's personality. It's
Yeah.
about these broader trends that he represents
The shift away from global.
towards a more nationalistic approach.
Yeah, so we're seeing a realignment of global powers,
We are.
a potential shakeup of the U.S. government,
Mhm.
and the rise of new forms of political communication.
It's a lot.
Where do you think this all leads?
Well, if one thing's for certain.
Yeah.
We are entering a period of
Uncertainty.
significant change and uncertainty, that's for sure.
The old rules don't apply anymore.
They don't.
What reaction stands out to you as the most significant or surprising?
That's a good question.
I think Putin's willingness to restore relations with the U.S.,
Right.
but at the same time, maintain Russia's use of the U.S. dollar.
Interesting.
That's pretty noteworthy.
Okay.
Suggests he's taking a pragmatic approach,
Yeah.
recognizing that even in a changing world order,
Mm-hmm.
there's still a need for
Cooperation.
cooperation and stability.
It challenges that narrative that the dollar is on its way out.
It does.
It seems like even amidst all this upheaval,
Yeah,
there's still a place for strategic thinking.
absolutely.
Calculated moves.
The world is rarely black and white.
Right.
This situation is no exception.
A lot of complex interests at play.
A lot of complex interests.
It'll take time for things to settle,
It will,
for a new equilibrium to emerge.
for sure.
We really are witnessing history in the making, aren't we?
I think so.
This global landscape is shifting right before our eyes.
Yeah, and it's both exciting and a little unnerving at the same time.
It is. I mean, you get a sense of anticipation, but also a bit of anxiety. You know it's going to happen.
Yeah, a lot of unknowns right now.
And it's not just about Trump himself.
No.
It's about what his victory represents.
You're right. It's about these underlying currents of dissatisfaction with the status quo.
Both domestically and internationally.
People are looking for change.
And they see him as a catalyst.
That's right.
Yeah, whether it's frustration with the economy, political gridlock, the erosion of national sovereignty.
It's a feeling that the old systems just aren't working.
Right. And that sentiment goes way beyond the U.S.
It really does.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a question.
Okay, shoot.
Out of all these global reactions we've talked about, which one surprised you the most?
Ooh, that's a good question.
And what does it tell us about the world we're moving into?
Well, it really forces you to think, doesn't it?
It does.
To look beyond the headlines.
And consider the deeper implications.
Yeah, are we seeing a new world order forming?
Or is this just a temporary blip?
Who knows? Only time will tell.
Only time will tell. Well said. And as we navigate this new territory, it's crucial to stay informed.
Absolutely.
Engage in these discussions.
And challenge our assumptions.
Exactly. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you found it insightful and thought-provoking.
As always.
Until next time, keep exploring.
And keep asking questions.
We'll see you then.